and excitement. Whoa, sick to drop it. That's what I do. All right, power panel. Well, look, are some people saying the Walter Cronkite of our generation? I don't know. Is that what Cronkite used to? I think that's how he started the shows, isn't it?
Every time.
Yeah, well,
that's before my time. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, okay, we're just trying to deliver the news here. All right, power panel, Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, John Idaho, Francesca Fiorentini. We're in a bit of a twitchuation room. If you're listening, it's probably a bituation room. Earlier today when we were discussing the stories, it was a pituation room. So we're in it though. We're in it all around.
We're not gonna leave you in a ditchuation room. Let's keep this going, Cenk.
Yes, finally, someone's with me. Okay, all right.
Got dad jokes from over here, dad jokes from over there.
Indeed.
Come on, you love it.
I just noticed that John and I are wearing the same new Young Turks shirt.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, he's got a sweatshirt, I got the shirt.
Hoodie.
Oh, look at that. What are we, like Wonder Twins?
Looking great.
Should we activate in the form of a waterfall and a chimpanzee?
Depending on which I am.
Is that
an NFT reference?
I think it is.
That's not new school, that's old school. Wonder Twins are of course part of the Justice League. And you guys should check that out.
Yeah, 1 Ethereum each.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, obviously the Twitchuation room was a reference to Francesco's show. For us on twitch.tv/TYT, which you should all check out. Damage Report, of course, is always on at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. All right, now having said all that, we got a crazy show for you guys, so let's get going.
Yes, and we experience what we do so often on this show, jokey, fun beginning to the show, and then incredibly serious and dark news. So we're gonna be experiencing that transition now.
Kim Potter murdered my son, and he died April 11th. Today, the justice system murdered him all over again.
That is the mother of Daunte Wright, who was killed by Minneapolis police officer Kim Potter when Kim Potter says she intended to tase him but used the wrong weapon, and Daunte Wright ended up dying. She was sentenced finally today to 2 years in prison, of which she might not spend the entirety. And we are gonna talk about why exactly the sentence ended up being so low. To catch you up though, she was originally convicted back in December for first-degree and second-degree manslaughter in the April 11th killing of Wright, who was pulled over for having expired license plate tags and an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. Officers learned he had an outstanding warrant for a weapons possession charge, and he pulled away as they tried to arrest him. Video shows that Potter shouted several times that she was going to tase him, but she had her actual firearm in her hand and fired one shot into his chest. Now, that brings us to the actual sentencing, and the judge in this case, who apparently really wanted to focus on empathy for the police officer. Here is a little bit of that.
It is the sentence and judgment of this court that you shall be committed to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 24 months. You shall serve 2/3 of that time, or 16 months in prison, and 1/3 on supervised release, assuming no disciplinary offenses. I recognize there will be those who disagree with this sentence, that I granted a significant downward departure does not in any way diminish Daunte Wright's life. Please try to empathize with Ms. Potter's situation. As President Barack Obama once said, learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins.
So as is alluded to there by Judge Chu, it is obviously not a very lengthy sentence, and she and the defense lawyers, fairly working in tandem there, will try to make a case for why that should be the case, why we should not be frustrated by that. But again, bear in mind, 2 years, of which only 16 months necessarily will be served according, assuming good behavior. And by the way, in Minnesota, the ranges for the most serious offense that she was convicted for range from 6 years to about 8.5 years. Judges are not supposed to be able to go significantly below that without like a real good reason, effectively. And she believes that exists. The judge does. We will get into some of the arguments that were made there, but I want to give the panel an opportunity to weigh in.
Okay, so let's go through a couple of numbers here. She's already served 58 days, it's about 2 months. So she'll be out in a little over a year, that's it. Daunte Wright, on the other hand, will remain deceased. And so that's the thing about murder, it's permanent. And so she was convicted. This is almost jury nullification by the judge, saying, I don't care what the jury said, I like the cop. So a lot of black men have gone before judges in this country, and the judges have said, oh, there's nothing I could do. It's the minimum sentence. Minimum sentence, there's nothing I could do, even if I wanted to do it. And oftentimes they get way more than the minimum sentence. Well, apparently there was something they could do. Apparently, if it's a white cop, you can just ignore the minimum. Who cares? Over 6 years, that's the least she's supposed to get. The average, by the way, is about 7 years. She's like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm just gonna give her less. I like her. I empathize with her. So Daunte Wright, we empathize with apparently a little less. So all that talk of empathy and then quoting Barack Obama, that nice touch. Even Joy Reid, noted conservative Democrat, was like, don't quote Obama here. You should have quoted Martin Luther King. When Joy Reid's telling you not to quote Barack Obama, something's really amiss. Okay, so yeah, I mean, but which way does the empathy slide in your slippery slope of empathy? And so now one more number for you guys. There's a potential Biden Supreme Court nominee, Michelle Childs. All of the conservative Democrats and all the Republicans are pushing for her, of course. So one, she's incredibly corporate friendly. That's obviously why they love her. and I'm so worried to death that Biden's going to pick her. But a story broke today, coincidentally, that she's also really tough on crime. So she'd given a guy who sold 8 ounces of weed, 8 ounces, 12 years in prison. So that guy is getting 12 years in prison. Kim Potter, who killed Daunte Wright, is going to get a little over a year.
Insane.
Insane.
No, and you're exactly right. I mean, look, this judge said that this was one of the, quote, saddest cases that she'd ever had to rule on. And mind you, given what we just heard her say, that's not sad because Daunte Wright is no longer alive and his children have to grow up without a father and his mother has to grow up without a son. That's not what she means. She means because she's only seeing this from the cop's perspective. That's why it's sad. And yet, Cenk, my guess is that this judge has also sentenced nonviolent drug offenders for far more years than 2 years for taking someone's life for the possession of a small amount of illicit substances. Like, I know that to be true. This judge has worked on the bench for 20 years. Okay, but let's put ourselves in the shoes of this police officer. This police officer was a veteran of 26 years working for the police department. 26 years, and still didn't know the difference between their taser and their gun. I don't even know how that works. I wouldn't even understand that, because after 26 years of being on the job and you still don't know, in a moment of sort of heightened tensions because, oh yeah, this big old criminal has an air freshener hanging from his rear view mirror. That is a sign of a cold-blooded killer. What? Yeah. I don't even know where to begin to put myself in someone's shoes like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, look, you can accurately say that every part of this is sad. I can even try to imagine, after having done it, how you would feel. That does not mean that you should not spend quite a bit of time behind the bars. And we'll get into the different reasons why that might be justified. They address that actually, but really fast, I wanna talk about what the two sides have been pushing for. The prosecutor had said anything less than 4 years would be unacceptable. Obviously, we don't get anything near that. The defense had been pushing for a sentence of probation only, no time behind bars. And the reason was that this is beyond tragic. It's unintentional, it was an accident, it was a mistake, and the defense attorney held up a box of letters and cards of support. What does that have to do? Like, how many cards need to be piled in a box before he comes back to life? Like, it's great that she's getting support. What does that have to do with the consequences of her action? And the expectations we should have for cops, that they should take seriously whether they're using a weapon that is potentially able to kill someone, because of course these less lethal weapons are, or that is almost guaranteed to kill someone. Should they take it seriously? Should other cops be really sure before they pull the trigger on whatever weapon it is that they happen to draw? They're not sure, just one of them. Anyway, the judge says that there's mitigating factors. It was undisputed that Potter never intended to use her gun. Well, she drew it. Again, like, you could be really, if the most important thing to you is to not fire a gun, there were some other measures that she could have taken. But she felt like she had to tase him, can't let him get away. After all, that would be inconvenient. We would have to follow him. Anyway, Chu says that there's 4 reasons for incarceration: retribution, incapacitation, deterrence, and rehabilitation, saying retribution would be the only purpose served in Potter's case. How is that true? How is that accurate? There's no deterrent to telling other cops, hey, it's not just like you roll the die when you draw one of the weapons from your belt, maybe you should be sure of which one it is. There's no rehabilitation, no extra time to think seriously about the power that you wield over life and death and how careful you should be when potentially meting it out. I don't know. Look, the judge in this case obviously had a side that they were on, and they have all the power in this case, so what do you know, they won.
Yeah, to me, the rehabilitation thing stuck out because in the judge's mind, cops are perfect anyway. So why would they have to be rehabilitated? Just an honest mistake, and so somebody's dead, but he wasn't perfect. Cops are always perfect. They don't need deterrence, they don't need rehabilitation. And guys, if you're young and you don't get it, you're right. But what you're missing is the older generation got, and I'm in that older generation, we all got brainwashed into thinking that cops are angels. I'm not joking at all, I'm not exaggerating. Every program I ever saw, TV, movie, news, local news, national news, print news, video news, it doesn't matter. Everything that I'd ever seen told me cops are perfect. Cops never lie, they're always telling the truth on the stand, and the defendant is always lying. So I actually believed that when I was a kid. I did, it took me a long time to get past that. There would be cases where there would be overwhelming evidence that the cop planted something on the scene, and I wouldn't believe it because it was cognitive dissonance. Because I had been culturally brainwashed into thinking that cops were angels on earth. I remember when Ice Cube and NWA came out with the songs about the police, I was like, whoa, they really are gangster rappers. I mean, only gangsters would say terrible things about cops. Look, I grew up in a nice suburb, I had no freaking idea, okay? I liked the music, but I didn't understand it until later, okay? So this is a judge from the old school, thinks, I mean, an angel dropped down on earth and made a simple mistake. What, are we gonna really apply the law to her, right? Oh, sympathy for Daunte Wright, who's dead. Well, I'll get around to it, maybe, although I didn't really talk about it here. So, look, the last couple of things. You have to understand, she got convicted of first and second degree manslaughter. Those are really serious charges, okay? And the judge basically told the jury, I don't care. I don't care about all the work that you did. I mean, it's so hard because of that programming to get a jury to ever say a cop is wrong in the first place. They do it in this case, and the judge goes, don't care, don't care.
Yes.
So look, for all the conservatives, by the way, look, I get that people sympathize with Potter. I get that a lot of people think it was an honest mistake. I understand that, right? But someone's dead anyway, right? And a taser's nothing like a gun. And so it's really weird, okay, fine, outrageous mistake, but that's the point John is making, that we have to make sure that cops understand it's not no big deal, made a mistake, he's dead, who cares, right? No, it's the guy, his life is gone, we cannot bring him back. We cannot bring him back. So a lot of people wrote in letters. Who cares? A lot of people wrote in letters for Rittenhouse, but honestly, a lot of people wrote in letters for O.J. Simpson. So that doesn't matter at all. And those letters are irrelevant. The jury's relevant. How many times have we been told, nope, the only people that matter is the jury, sequester them, everybody else's public opinion is irrelevant. Oh, everybody thinks that George Zimmerman did it. Who cares? It's irrelevant, irrelevant, irrelevant. Oh, jury acquitted him, too late, okay? And same thing with Rittenhouse. Now the same people saying jury's the only thing that matters when it's Rittenhouse or Zimmerman who gets off, now turn around and go, no, jury is irrelevant. Wait, I thought you said it was the only relevant thing. Now you're saying it's irrelevant and we should let the cop off anyway. Gee, I wonder if you're biased.
Yeah.
I just have to put this in a broader context of how sad it is that we don't have real leadership when it comes to the most massive movement, social movement that I think I've ever seen in my lifetime, which is the Black Lives Matter in the streets movement. Sorry it didn't come in a nice, cute little letter on beautiful stationery to put in your box that you could hold up in front of everybody. No, young people took the goddamn streets, okay? They were out there for months and months and months and were thusly terrorized and cars driven into them, etc. And yet is any Democrat, is any leading Democrat taking up that mantle? Or are you using the idea that defund the police somehow hurt the Democrats to your political advantage? Oh yeah, it's the latter. Meanwhile, qualified immunity rolls on and criminals inside the police force and justice system are allowed to keep on committing this. And the last thing I'll say is, Cenk, you're totally right. People who have positive views of the police live in communities where there are no police. Of course you like police when you are privileged. You don't ever interact with them. You only call them when you need it. They don't parole your streets. They don't enforce curfews. They don't treat you like you are a foreign country that they are occupying. Of course you like police, and of course this is what we're all working against.
Yeah, I did an interview with a DJ in LA. He's Latino. He actually grew up partly in LA, partly in Arizona. He said it was worse in Arizona. I've told the story before. The cops would come and slam them against the fence when they were playing basketball or walking home from school 3 times a week. And he had to carry his report card with straight A's in it in his backpack to show the cops that they shouldn't beat him up too much. Okay, I never had to deal with that. I'm a minority, but I grew up in a relatively nice suburb. That to us would have been insane, unheard of. And if they had done that to one kid in that suburb, it would have been probably a national story. They do it to minorities all the time. And the people in power, including this judge now today, basically saying, don't care. All I care about is the cops' feelings and not your feelings. And by the way, also not your death.
Yeah. Well, why don't we take our first break? We come back, the natural consequences of taking away a program that was highly successful, and progressives getting blamed for everything after this.
All right, back during the social break here, let me read some of your comments. This is for our member section on tyt.com. Doodle Dragon Imran said, don't want to be caught in a snitchuation room. That's funny, that's funny. Our audience is funny. I Am Sock writes in, as soon as the sentence came down, every lawyer who represented someone before this judge came out with receipts of how terribly she's sentenced minorities. So I haven't seen that yet, but tick, 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 tick. Jesse says, if courts were merciful to everyone else, including of course black people, that would be one thing, but this is clearly a double standard. That's a great point. You know, hey, mercy, you wanna go in both directions, no problem. But there's never any mercy towards minorities. So whether it's blacks or Latinos, or if a Muslim committed a mass shooting, you think they're gonna get the sympathy that Dylan Roof got? Oh, let's go get you a burger at Burger King. Let's treat you with great, politeness. Let's go pick you up and not kill you. On and on and on and on. No, I've never seen the US court system show any mercy to a Muslim defendant, or as far as I can remember, a black defendant.
Didn't the black woman who voted when she was told she could, but she couldn't, she got 5 years, I think.
5 years for, you want to talk about an honest mistake? An honest mistake.
I think that vote killed like 3 people though, so factor that in.
2.5 times the sentence of Potter for killing Daunte Wright. Yeah, show me mercy in the other direction, then we'll have a conversation. I haven't seen it yet. Brook Fort Dragon wrote in, happy 20th birthday to you, happy 65th birthday to me. Well, happy birthday. Okay. I've been a member for 22 months and began watching TYT as research for a university assignment. Good day from down under.
Well, that's awesome.
Good day right back at you. And I love that you ran into us during doing research. Twitch subs Jeff Waldorf, who does Waldorf Nation, you should check out, says happy 20 years of TYT, 18 months on Twitch, and it flew right by. Marty C says only 1 month till my baby's due. Here's to giving Bezo bucks to TYT. You're wonderful, thank you, we appreciate it, and congrats. Constrained Agency says 4 months to go before 1 year. Keep up the excellent coverage of TYT. We are too strong. Thank you, love it. And Billy Barracuda says, look at this epic power panel. Franny always makes my day. Gotta love Jenks Energy. What a fantastic panel. Go get him, you two. you too.
Hey.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and Francesca with you guys. John, take it away.
Okay. At the end of last year, the child tax credit was allowed to expire, and what do you know? The following month, just last month, child poverty rose significantly. Nobody could have seen it coming. But we do have the numbers. The Center on Poverty and Social Policy at Columbia University said that the child poverty rate rose from 12% in December to 17% last month, an approximately 41% increase in 1 month. That almost seems impossible, but America found a way. We are number one. The study found that an additional 3.7 million children are now in poverty relative to the end of December, with Black and Latino children seeing the biggest percentage point increases. And all it took was taking away one of the most beloved and successful social programs of the past few decades. And all that it was for a portion of last year, from July to December, parents received monthly payments worth up to $250 per child, as much as $300 if the children were under 6 years old. 61 million children benefited from this program, encompassing 36 million households. And so it was incredibly popular, and that dropped child poverty by about a third. Then you get rid of it, it goes back up by 41%. All of this, of course, happening during an absolutely terrible public health emergency with a number of different economic knock-on effects from that emergency. And so it was popular, it was working, but the White House was unable to secure an extension of it. And in fact, Senator Joe Manchin raised multiple objections to the child benefit and said it was discouraging parents from working, which we wouldn't want that. I mean, what's worse than that? Certainly not millions of children going hungry every single day. Virtually all Republicans also, of course, opposed the child tax credit. And Washington was really worried about the deficit and stuff, and they were really worried about people taking advantage of the system. So they killed it. And what do you know? 40% or so increase in child poverty in 1 month.
So guys, it's not theoretical, it's real. And it's not just a statistic, it's 3.7 million American children are now back in poverty. I want to show you the two people most responsible. These are the monsters named Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And they single-handedly said, yeah, we're gonna drive those kids back into poverty. And they did. So these are the guys, these are the villains. And again, that's not theoretical. It was their votes that made sure that Build Back Better with child tax credit could not pass. So you're looking at the two people isn't that amazing? Just two people.
Such power.
Drove nearly 4 million kids into poverty. And they couldn't care less. Okay, now let me show you the guy who is the indifferent leader that allowed them to do it without a fight at all. And his name is Joe Biden. Where's your fight? Where's your fight? You're gonna brag, you care about your own legacy, of course. Everybody in Washington is obsessed with only one thing, their effing ego, right? And before he was bragging, oh, look at all the big kids we lifted out of poverty. Then Manchin said, no, shut up, go away, I'm not passing your bill. And Joe Biden said, okay, sure, I'm fine, there's no problem at all. Where's your fight? Where's your fight? Nowhere, okay? Now, I'm thrilled to tell you, you can no longer brag about it. Okay, I know you were gonna, oh my ego, oh my legacy, my legacy. Well, now you don't have a legacy either because you don't actually care. When it came to the infrastructure bill that all of your donors benefited from, then we saw Joe Biden fight. He went and told progressives, you better pass it, okay? Manchin says no to Build Back Better in the child tax credit. He's like, oh, okay, fine, no problem at all. We're moving on. We moved on to voting rights. Oh, we didn't pass that either. I'm moving on from that. What are you not gonna move on from? So they drove those children back into poverty. Look, we'll give you we're not the fake left. We'll also tell you the reality that every Republican is a monster. If you don't know that by now, because you're listening to right wing or fake left or whoever you're listening to, every Republican is against those children. They happily, gleefully drove them back into poverty, okay? So, but the Republicans are not in charge, the Democrats are. So this one is on them. They said they would do it and they didn't.
And it's just part of this pig-headed American exceptionalism that feeds our bodies to market gods. We're still in a pandemic. We're just getting over yet another variant, right? Knock on wood, there's not another, but of course if there is, Biden's gonna say he didn't see it coming. How was I supposed to know? Oh my God, you need a mask? Oh, what for? But put on your mask. It is insane. It is always blame the victim in this country. It is always pull yourself up from the bootstraps in the middle of an effing pandemic. And look, guys, $250 to $300 a month to lift 4 million children out of poverty is not a lot of money, right? It shows you how many people in this country, these aren't children, right? Children aren't owning their own bank accounts by themselves. These are families. These are families who can't afford, as we all know, an unexpected $400 expense. These are families with $250 a month. They can do so much more. Meanwhile, you got the NYPD busting thieves for stealing baby formula and posing next to it like it's a meth bust.
Yep.
Come on, and we're supposed to care about petty crime when people are stealing stuff for their children, their babies. So again, like we're doing, as Cenk and I covered yesterday, $770 billion for the defense budget, and yet untold amount of money we could be making, we could be saving. Where's the money gonna come from? If you pay for universal paid leave, family leave, sick leave, if you have expanded healthcare benefits, let alone Medicare for all, if you have universal childcare, if you extend the child tax credit, my God, we would be so much wealthier than we are, and we would live up to the idea that we are the best democracy on earth.
Yeah, and oh my God, so like this has affected obviously all sorts of families. Let's bear in mind, how many conservative families back into poverty now? Oh, those populists, those right-wing populists of Fox News are going to be so angry tonight. Tucker Carlson is gonna do 40 minutes about those millions of conservative families who are gonna be suffering as a result of this. We're gonna talk in a little bit about political consequences of this sort of thing. It is bad enough if you have been dwelling in poverty, ruled over by a government that has never cared and has never helped you. Heads up to Biden. What do you think the people will do after they got a little bit of help for a few months and then were cast back into poverty? Might they be a little bit more angry, actually? And I also want you to remember, everybody is rightfully angry about this story and the numbers that we just gave you. And they should be. These are the people that are worst off. They've sunk back into poverty. These are not the only people that have been negatively affected by getting rid of that child tax credit. That is the people who shifted below the threshold for poverty. Many, many millions more families have shifted, not necessarily across that arbitrary line, but their lives have now become materially more difficult. Tens of millions of families' lives are now harder as a result of this. I do have one good thing, because I know you like when politicians call out other politicians. I have an example of that on this particular issue. AOC tweeted in response to this, one US senator heard stories about people allegedly using the child tax credit for drugs without any evidence or data to back it up. He then used that as justification to nuke the entire national program, causing millions of kids to fall into poverty in weeks. Horrifying. Meanwhile, the press talks about it like it's some Beltway drama without ever showing the people who are sleeping in bubble jackets with no heat, or the kids going hungry waiting for some guy in a yacht to decide if they were fully human or not. It's just shameful, all of it.
There you go. Yes, I do love that. And again, it's not to vent, it's strategic. You have to put pressure on Joe Manchin. Unfortunately, AOC and the few just Democrats fighting out there are in a vacuum because the media just thinks Manchin is cinema or God's gift to humanity. They're so moderate representing their state. As we've told you a million times, it's not remotely true. It is not the moderate position. The child tax credit polls at over 70% across America. The moderate position is to do the child tax credit. and they are not popular in their home states. These provisions, the child tax credit is intensely popular in West Virginia and in Arizona. Any member of the press that tells you Manchin is doing it because of his home state is a liar or is an incompetent buffoon that wouldn't know the facts if it slapped him across the face. Now, last two things from me. So all of the fake hand-wringing that Francesca referred to in Washington, Stephen Ratner, former Obama official and Wall Street tycoon, putting out an op-ed today saying, oh, we can't do Build Back Better in any of these provisions because of the deficit. First of all, Build Back Better is deficit neutral. He says, okay, yeah, theoretically, but I don't believe it. You know what is not deficit neutral? The defense bill. The defense bill is not at all, doesn't care about the deficit, just piles $800 billion on top of the deficit. It is over 4 times larger than the entire Build Back Better, let alone the child tax credit, which is a very small part of Build Back Better. Did Steve Ratner rant about that? Nope, didn't care at all because he's a liar. He doesn't care about defense. Bill, he doesn't care about the deficit. He doesn't care about debt. All he cares about is money, 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 not to you, to his beloved corporations instead. Which leads me to my final point. Why? Why would you kill a program this popular? If you're a Democrat, aren't you at least interested in self-preservation? So why wouldn't you pass something that everybody in blue and red states loves? Maybe they might love Democrats if you kept it. No, the donor class says they're getting too much money. It's driving our prices up, the wages we have to pay labor up.
Yep.
We have labor shortages because we gave them crumbs and now they can live off of crumbs, $250 a month. Now I can't pay them starvation slave wages anymore. So make sure you take away the crumbs and back to the mines. And the politicians say, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Even if it means their own career jumps off a cliff, but don't worry, it won't, because the press will always cover for them and tell you that they're wonderful moderates who are representing their voters, when that is nothing but a huge, disgusting lie.
Any final thoughts, Francesca?
I mean, it's funny. I agree with you, Cenk, on the last point that they talk about Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin as if they were moderates. But I think the other thing is we've seen that they covered them wall to wall and only about Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, and they were obsessed with them. They just are too afraid to mention the donors. They don't talk about all the handouts that Joe Manchin has gotten, all the money that he's made off of the coal industry. They're not talking about the backdoor deals that Kyrsten Sinema is making with trade industries or pharmaceutical companies. They're not talking about any of that. It's almost like they were just sort of woke up and decided to stymie the bill because they must have some sort of moderate centrist little fairy dust that told them that this is gonna be bad for us later. No, there's nothing magic about it. It is the money. Yeah. And I was talking about this on the Bituation Room, but we were talking about with the revolving door project, Max Moran, who was like, look, we need to make enemies. We need to stop being afraid. Liberals, centrists need to stop being afraid of making enemies. We won't get anything done unless you make an enemy of the corporate and the 1%, of the corporate class and the 1%. Otherwise, it's like, gee, where did all this poverty come from? I mean, it's the hot dog situation perpetually. But anyway.
Yeah, well, we're about to transition to an even more hot doggish situation here, if I'm getting the reference you're making there. So why don't we move on to this? Pretty much everyone agrees that as of right now, it looks like the Democrats are probably gonna do pretty poorly in the midterm elections. And if you pay attention to politics a lot, you might think, well, it's probably complex. There's probably a lot of places you can place the blame. Promises not made good on, bad statements, politicians not doing the right. No, it's super simple actually. Axios has the answer. It's the squad's fault, because I found out, as many did, that the squad's politics have backfired. And you should be very angry about them very much in advance of the midterm elections. Mike Allen tells us that the hard left politics of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the so-called squad. You can just say that they're called the squad. Why are you saying so-called? Why are you questioning it?
It is so-called and the scare quotes.
It's both?
It's both.
It is the squad. You're calling them the squad.
Yeah.
Whatever. Once a dominant theme for vast numbers of elected Democrats is backfiring big time on the party in power, top Democrats tell us. The push to defund the police, rename schools, and tear down statues has created a significant obstacle to Democrats keeping control of the House, the Senate, and the party's overall image. Did you know Ilhan Omar wanted to desexify the M&M mascots? That's on her. Anyway, so they have gone to a representative sample of the many wings of the Democratic Party to source this article. For instance, Matt Bennett, listed as the co-founder of the center-left third way, says it's what I had to put that in the description.
That's unbelievable.
Axios called it the center-left third way. It's what we've been screaming about for a year. And Representative Josh Gottheimer, he says, what I'm hearing at home and what I'm focused on are common sense bipartisan solutions, from tackling grocery and gas prices to cutting taxes and fixing our infrastructure to investing in law enforcement and fighting crime. And well, you know, they had to finally get, you know, like a hardcore progressive. So they've got Heidi Heitkamp, who says Democrats are hurting themselves by not speaking up more forcefully against liberal positions that alienate rural America. Heitkamp told AP, now the brand is so toxic that people who are Democrats, the ones left, aren't fighting for the party. Yes, yes. It doesn't matter if Biden got the White House campaigning as if he was actually a progressive, and people were so angry at conservatives that they gave the Dems the House and the Senate too. Oh, what, the only way we can give you the Senate is an unprecedented 2 Georgia Senate seats? Okay, whatever it takes for you to switch course. No, forget all that stuff, all those promises, forget every poll about what is popular and what is not. You need to be courting these rural voters who, I will remind you, soundly rejected Heidi Heitkamp when she tried to get reelected in North Dakota. But we should be listening to all of them, Cenk.
So this is pure propaganda. The old school Soviets, the current North Koreans would be embarrassed to put out a piece like this. So I'm gonna tell you the biggest sleight of hand that Mike Allen and Axios did here, which is disgraceful. But first, let me just break down a couple of the quotes that John just gave you. They painted it as, it is definitely backfiring. The squad, the so-called squad is horrible and has destroyed the Democratic Party. And at the very end, they just say, top Democrats tell us. No, you made it seem like that was a definitive fact. And then you just did a little adjunct at the end of that sentence, top Democrats tell us. Oh, so it's not a fact. It's something that was leaked to you by who? To John's point, a range of Democrats? No, the most conservative Democrats, the most corporate Democrats. Did you clarify that for your audience? No, you purposely concealed that from your audience. You pretended that it was a range of Democrats when in reality, every person you quoted is massively conservative and represents almost completely their donors, and I can show it to you on their voting record because I know you don't do research. So now the second thing, center-left third way. Third way is a literal PAC formed by corporations to capture the Democratic Party. It's funded completely by corporations. The whole point of the PAC is to drive the Democratic Party right-wing, right-wing. Everybody in Washington knows that. They don't hide that. And Mike Allen is I know the guy, he's a senior reporter. Mike, you don't know the third way is conservative, and you put in there center left to make it appear that it's a range of Democrats who all agree that the left is wrong, even though center left third way says they're wrong. That is purposeful lying and deceit. Forget us progressives. I know you hate us and you want to smear at us at every turn. Don't you care about your readers at all? And the answer is obvious. No, you want to manipulate them, you want to brainwash them, you want to do propaganda in favor of corporate rule, which coincidentally, Mike, is all of your advertisers. Giant corporations, drug companies, defense contractors, giant banks. So they thank you in advance, and they did already by giving you millions of dollars to write this trash. And then he also, now comes a sleight of hand. We're gonna get into it more in a second, but he says this is gonna be a big obstacle to Democrats keeping control of the House and the Senate. But wait a minute, what he talked about were all local issues. And in the article, he focuses on a very local set of elections in San Francisco. Wait. Those San Francisco City Council issues have nothing to do with the House and the Senate. What the House and the Senate were working on was Build Back Better. So you made it seem like the progressive positions that the House and the Senate are working on are deeply unpopular. So Mike, since you don't do any research, let me do it for you. Are they unpopular? The poll came out. Now this is after Republicans, conservative Democrats, and corporate media battered Build Back Better after they did billions of dollars of propaganda against them. Still, a poll just last month. Let's take a look. First of all, Build Back Better across the country, 62-31 still popular. By a 2-to-1 margin. What happened? I thought the progressive positions were deeply unpopular, Mike. It almost sounds like you were lying. Okay, now let's break down the issues one by one. Long-term care investments still in the shell of Build Back Better that hasn't passed. What's the popularity? 74%. Hearing coverage under Medicare, put in there by Bernie Sanders, a progressive position, undoubtedly polls at 72%. Clean energy and job investments. Green New Deal, we heard from Fox News and corporate media combined together tell us how unpopular it was. 62%, Mike. Housing affordability and prevention, 61%. Paid family leave, 59%. Every single provision over 50%. Incredibly popular. But there was a city council meeting in San Francisco. You see the sleight of hand? Look here. Oh, I found something unpopular in San Francisco. It represents all progressives and all the things that they were working on in the House and Senate. What actually were they working on in the House and Senate? No, shh. Don't talk about how popular those are. Then Lockheed Martin won't pay Axios.
Let's blame wokeism and the wokies and the woke-apocalypse and other ways we can talk about woke and lead in a very serious New York Times op-ed with the word woke or an Axios piece. What's so funny about the San Francisco thing, and I used to live there, right? These are parents who are transplants from Pleasanton, which is a suburb outside of SF, moved to SF during the pandemic. Then they got a bunch of tech millionaires and billionaires to underwrite a recall campaign for 3 school board members because they, at some point in the host of things that they're also doing, like trying to maintain a school in a pandemic, so kids don't die. By the way, San Francisco, one of the lowest rates of COVID transition, highest rates of vaccination in the country, that one of the things they were doing was changing the name of a school. And then, all of a sudden, they're wokies. Mind you, it's not an election year. It was a special election, tech money pouring into this. And suddenly it's a harbinger of everything bad to come. As Cenk said, it's utter BS. It has nothing to do with the national conversation. I'm excited for the future when we all get, when President Stephen Miller is in office and the 3 of us and everyone else at TYT were in the press gulag, and all the Axios reporters are like, you just shouldn't have asked for universal childcare. I mean, it's really on you guys. And we're gonna be there like, mother. It's gonna be a good brawl, and because this is the center playing into the rights into the rights culture war at the service of corporations. They're playing into the culture war just as much as the right is, but they're doing it because ultimately they serve the same gods, as Cenk pointed out.
So I want to give you one more aspect of this absolute trash article. They say Democrats are losing in poll after poll nationally in the House. That's true. That's absolutely true. Finally, we found something true in the article. Now, you want to know why? And by the way, I stand corrected. Thank you. I made a small error there. Axios, we actually care about facts. So it was not San Francisco City Council, as I said earlier in this video. It was the school board. Even more important, the San Francisco School Board apparently controls the whole country.
It's more national.
Okay, wow, how national? Okay,
there's a lot of foreign policy.
No, so now when they ask people, hey, what's wrong with the Democratic Party? Did they say a San Francisco School Board, et cetera, in that polling where the Democrats are getting killed? No. Here, I'll give you a specific poll. They asked people, how much do you think Joe Biden has done for you? 56% of the country, not 56% of Republicans. 56% of the country, that includes a ton of Democrats and independents said Joe Biden has done, quote, nothing for us. Nothing. And the argument that Axios is making is progressives made him do too much. Well, what am I supposed to call that? That's just a lie. That's just a lie. The polling indicates the exact opposite. You didn't do enough. You didn't fight enough, and you didn't do your so-called agenda, which Joe Biden never believed in. The only thing he ever said that was true was when he told his beloved donors, nothing will fundamentally change. Congratulations, Joe. Nothing fundamentally changed. You got your dream. And guess what? The polling indicates the American people hate you for it. But it's okay. You're gonna use goons like the reporters at Axios to do propaganda for you if you think it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna be okay. The jury's already in. You guys are gonna get slaughtered. And that's why a year before the elections, they're already blaming progressives because they know they're gonna lose because they didn't do anything because of their goddamn donors. And that's what this piece is about, and that's what corporate media is about, and that's why they're trash, and you should never read them.
I'm ready to move on from that story, honestly. I think it is not too early to start blaming Rashida Tlaib for the Dems losing in 2024. I think she should calm down. I think she's ruining it for us, honestly. Cori Bush, I'm watching you. You're ruining it, anyway. Okay, with that, we're gonna take our last break, but a little bit more fun coming up after this.
Back on TYT. First, let's go to YouTube Super Chat. Greg Edmond writes in, TYT pushed me over the edge. Thank you. After being a lifetime conservative and evangelical, I became disillusioned with the right and Fox after 2015. I needed the last shove towards sanity from TYT. Greg, thank you, brother. Thank you for saying those kind words about us. But more importantly, thank you for having an open mind and being intelligent and using that mind to see the reality. Because we all get brainwashed, guys. I got brainwashed into positive things and negative things when I was a kid. I eat with a fork and knife because they told me to, and they said that was my only option. Okay, and it turned out fine, no problem, right? They also brainwashed me into religion, and it took me 22 years to realize it wasn't true, right? And I don't want to offend people who are religious, but that was my experience, right? And when I was a kid, I got brainwashed into thinking cops were great and that the Republican Party was looking out for me. The minute I started seeing the facts, I was like, whoa, that is not remotely true. So the key is just to have an open mind. All right, Mr. Rochelle writes in, lost the child tax credit and my job at the same time. That's real America. That's what's actually happening. But all the lobbyists are still very gainfully employed, so they think there's no issues at all out there.
I wish the squad hadn't done that to him.
Yeah, what? All right, Bubba Franks says $20 just because it's Friday. Thank you, Bubba, you're the best. R. Stone says, how's that Dems are so incompetent they can't even pass temporary resolutions that ease the issues of the middle class to at least pass the midterms so they have something to run on. They are that deeply incompetent. Matthias Giovanni writes in, John, they thought this was your show and Cenk was a guest on the panel. Got your back, Dragon Leader. Look at that. All right. I love it.
Finally.
Now that we're on the screen again together, guys, Shop TYT has a 20% off site-wide because of our 20-year anniversary, and this is the week of that. So it's a good time to grab it. I love these shirts and this sweatshirt too. Yeah. So 20% off, shoptyt.com, shoptyt.com. All right, Michael Antisu writes in, Keith Ellison asked for 7.5 years. That's in the Potter case. No, Ellison is a good progressive, but he came out and said, I respect what the judge did. I know that's his job. It's frustrating though. Progressive Canuck writes in, great power panel for hour one. Thank you TYT for true news. Kunal Aurora just signed up by hitting the join button below and is a bit of an American hero. Some of you don't even live inside the country, but you're still American heroes. Okay, thank you, we appreciate it. And Queen Mother Dragon gifted 10 subs on Twitch, which is wonderful and amazing. We'll be right back. TYT, Cenk, John, and Francesca with you. More news.
Okay. There is no corruption too petty for Donald Trump. We're going to describe what a former aide has revealed. And while we go through these details, I want you to bear in mind that Donald Trump, according to Donald Trump, is a billionaire. He has billions of dollars. Okay. In 2021, Trump's Make America Great Again PAC spent $37,500 a month for 10 months renting space in the Trump Organization building in Manhattan. The former aide says it's a huge scam. I can't believe his base lets him get away with it. That aide works there, letting people into that area. That is not the only way that they funneled money that was donated to them into renting their own properties. Trump's campaign also rented unused space. It was the same monthly amount his campaign had spent there from mid-2017 through the end of 2020, so for literally years. In all those months, there was at most one person who periodically visited the 7,000 square foot office in Trump Tower, according to this former aide. But Trump insisted on having the campaign continue renting there because the building was having trouble finding tenants. And so all of this is a few $100,000 that conservatives donated in small amounts because they just wanted Donald Trump to make America great again. And he took that money and he gave it to himself so that he could set up fake offices in vacant areas of his building. And again, $300,000 is a lot for me, other people around here, but if you have billions, that is so incredibly petty. And that amount is also fascinating in one other way. The $375,000 that he spent for this unused office space is more than the $350,000 that his Save America committee donated last year to Republican candidates running for office, which is supposedly the reason that he is raising that money, since he himself is not running and will not for some time. So he put more into dormant, dark rooms in his tower than into the future of the Republican Party. And this will end up bothering no Republicans. They won't care. Most will never hear about it, but they won't be bothered.
Guys, I hate to keep going back to the same thing, but that's what the answer is. It's the media. So I tell you all the time about how corporate media is simping for the status quo and cheerleading for it, and they lie ad nauseum in an alternate reality where the status quo is wonderful to all of you, right? Well, right-wing media lies to you, of course, on different grounds. And in this case, the right-wingers have no idea the degree to which Donald Trump is stealing from them. Do you know that in 2016, after the campaign switched to donor money instead of Trump's money, he increased the rent that he was charging his own campaign 5-fold for the offices they were using in Trump Tower. 5-fold. As soon as it was your money. Don't you get it, right wingers? No left winger gave Trump money. It's not our money. It's yours that he's stealing. When it was his money, no, don't worry about it. When it's your money, he's like charging 5 times more. My followers are idiots. Let's rob them blind. He'd get to raise money from you to give to other Republicans, and instead he gave it to himself. Now, so why don't If they knew that, would they still be okay with it? My guess is no, they wouldn't. But it depends on who's telling them. If I tell them to go, oh no, Cenk's a bad guy, he doesn't even realize that America's not a democracy, it's a republic. That's why we had to do the coup. I don't trust Cenk at all, okay? Okay, fine, CNN, you don't trust him, you probably shouldn't trust, okay? That's why I'm telling you, it's right-wing media. If Tucker Carlson turned on Donald Trump, and the rest of the media did on the right wing, he'd be done in the span of about 2 weeks.
Yes.
He came out and said that he took the vaccine and he lost like a giant percent. Like we did a poll right after that, right? We didn't commission and we reported on it. And he lost like 15, 20 points among Republicans. If Tucker Carlson came out and said, Trump is robbing you, and he showed these same exact facts, people would be like, whoa, I didn't know he was robbing me. I'm not in favor of him robbing me. I thought he was robbing Muslims or Latinos or something. Okay, I mean, if he's robbing me, then I'm mad. But they will not say the truth under penalty of law.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to vote against your own interests, and it's another thing to vote for like the guy who's currently sticking you up at gunpoint. Like that's a very interesting Freudian. I don't know, something's going on there, but like. Yeah, Republican voters somehow really like this pain, and of course they're never going to know about it because it never gets reported on. They'll never know that when they tick that little box that said, "I didn't not want to stop giving $500 every week to the Trump campaign," that was actually going to charge their credit card a little bit more. I will just take issue with the idea that this was empty space. I do think Rudy Giuliani was up there with a go-kart, just doing donuts, having a grand old time. I mean, it was his home, and you should respect it thusly.
Okay.
And last thing, like hit the brand. I love this idea that Trump is somehow, he runs the country like his business. He runs it like, look at his business. Nobody wants to even rent space he's a terrible autocrat. Any other country, right? You think people don't want to rent space in the autocrat's building? Of course they do. Not Trump. He can't even be a good totalitarian. He can't even do demagoguing right.
So I gotta state a couple more facts. To Francesca's point, there's literally a saying in gambling, the house always wins. Every gambler knows that, everybody who's gone to Vegas knows that, the house always wins. He couldn't run casinos, they went bankrupt.
Yes.
They have to put an asterisk now, the house always wins. Asterisk, unless the moron Donald Trump is running it. And so the only thing he knows how to do is fraud and theft. That's why now he's under criminal investigation and is in a lot of trouble in civil issues in New York, because that's his business, fraud and theft. And so both his PAC and his own campaign charged for Trump Tower and other places that he owns without actually having offices there, robbing you in two different directions. And of course, as usual, the moron Donald Trump has told people, well, I had to do it because we're having trouble filling up Trump Tower. No, you moron, you're at least supposed to say, no, we actually had offices there. It wasn't for my business interest, it was for the campaign. It was really important that we have an office in the middle of Manhattan that's really expensive in a state we're never gonna win, right? You had to pretend to say that. Instead, the idiot's like, well, of course, I had to rob you because I don't have enough money. And as long as right-wing media tells him, yes, sir, you all, if you're in the right wing, never even hear that.
The only thing I will add, because I know that we're over, is I don't know that Tucker Carlson is ever gonna do what you were predicting earlier, but he did go off about how having COVID makes you feminized. Trump had COVID. And also, I believe it was 2 nights ago, he did this whole thing about how emotionally well-adjusted people don't freak out when they lose an election. They don't refuse to accept it. They take it as an opportunity to learn. It's a normal part of the process. You can grow and develop. Now, he said all of this while implying that he was mocking Max Boot and Liz Cheney, but it obviously better fits Donald Trump as well as his base. So I don't know, maybe he's moving in the direction that you were predicting right there.
Yeah, he's gonna do a Raiders of the Lost Ark situation where he's gonna switch out the two objects and take out Trump and put himself in. We've already shown you half a dozen ways that Tucker Carlson is in the middle of doing that. And if you think that's gonna make it better, no, we're gonna replace a dumb fascist with a much smarter fascist. Okay, we gotta go. Everybody check out the Twitchuation room on twitch.tv/TYT. Everybody check out the damage report. That's on every platform we have, and it's an awesome show. And everybody stay here as well. JR, Helen Han coming up next, and we're gonna make more fun of Donald Trump because he's in even bigger trouble. Another devastating story came out about him today, but also other news of the day as well. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor, or concern for whose toes we might step on, or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for them to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you gonna afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It's not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them. ShopTYT.com has new shirts like this one. And you're thinking, Cenk, what is that one? I can't see it other than the black. Yes, so I'll show it to you. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. Yes! Now, you were practicing social distancing. This is over video. But overall, you get it. ShopTYT.com. Stop it. Power panel. Cenk Uygur, J.R. Jackson, Helen Hong, who's in all my favorite TV shows and commercials, and also one of my favorite YouTube channels, Old Korean Dad Stories. How are you not gonna watch that? Okay.
You must. I mean, with a title like that, you have to.
Obviously. Actually, yeah, seriously, Helen, I'm gonna watch it with my kids. Because they're obsessed, since my wife is Asian, they're obsessed with any YouTube videos that make fun of Asian parents.
Of course. My parents are on, and I make fun of them, and they make fun of themselves, so it's pretty good.
Oh, they'll love it.
It's a little mocking for everyone.
And since Turks are originally from Central Asia, they're like 1.5 parents are Asian. We're going for that, okay? All right, we got a lot of show ahead for you guys, so JR's gonna take it away.
Let's do it.
It is conservative media that has gone from support to incitement. These people are violating the rights of others in Canada.
Are you saying we're inciting it?
There's Geraldo Rivera telling a little bit more truth on the Fox News channel every once in a while. And of course, once Geraldo Rivera tells a little bit of truth, a catfight ensues. So this catfight is coming from after some right-wing media outlets did point this out. Let's see this from Newsweek. Right-wing media outlets, including Fox News talk radio podcasters and websites like Breitbart, they praised the truckers as heroic patriots. So by February 9th, Fox News hosts like Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham devoted nearly 8 hours covering the protest up there in Canada, while watchdog group Media Matters reported it. So the Department of Homeland Security has since warned that similar protests could begin in the US, according to a DHS warning circulated to law enforcement nationwide. Now, during that segment, as Geraldo decided to point out of what many of these right-wing outlets are doing and inciting and pursuing this story on and on for their own benefit, let's watch the rest of this exchange that he had with the rest of those members of the Five.
What is not that popular in Canada, Judge, is this trucker, this freedom convoy. What about the freedom of the homeowners to live in peace? What about the freedom of the shopkeepers to do business? What about the freedom of the auto workers to get parts so they can put their cars together?
Did you say this when they were burning down the federal courthouse in Seattle for 2 months?
I did more than that. I condemned it. I condemn anybody who feels so
but what violence are they creating?
So empowered that they can take away your rights to establish their rights.
What rights are they taking away?
They're taking away the right of the homeowner to sleep in peace, the right of the shopkeeper to do business,
Where are you
the right
seeing
of the
this?
auto workers
Where
to get parts.
Where are you seeing these rights being taken away? They're not parked in front of people's houses.
They are
They're not parked in front of people's houses, honking in the middle of the night. They're actually being welcomed.
You are. It is conservative media.
You have one person you're talking to in Canada.
It is conservative media that has gone from support to incitement. These people are violating the rights of others in Canada.
Are you saying we're inciting it?
The polls that I see, the Hub, Ledger, Ipsos, these polls all show between 65 and 69% of Canadians oppose these truckers because this has gone on long enough.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just show the evidence. That's what we ask.
Yeah, they have a very short
Open your eyes and look.
No, I actually read and do research. I don't just come here and yell. Although sometimes I do.
You yell all day, every day.
Okay.
So there's that conversation went from normal to ridiculous because once Gutfeld wants to talk about, give us some proof. How about some evidence? Right after Geraldo gave them multiple pieces of evidence, including this is maybe some more evidence for them. 2/3 of Canadians support the use of Emergencies Act and want Freedom Convoy cleared out. Weird how that works. Also, police have started taking action against some of these folks as well. I think we've heard a little bit of, because on Thursday evening, police arrested 2 key organizers of the self-stylized Freedom Convoy, and they've since ramped up efforts to dispense the illegal demonstrations and arrest the holdouts. Police said some protesters were surrendering and being arrested during an operation Friday morning as authorities began enforcing bans on demonstrating in the downtown core. And also at noon, Ottawa police said that in a tweet that there had been 15 arrests and 4 vehicles towed. And lastly, police on Thursday evening also cordoned off large swaths of downtown Ottawa and set up checkpoints around illegal encampments. Inside the area where the core of the remaining truckers and demonstrators are holed up, the mood was somber but defiant. Protesters shoveled snow to create barricades in the street and block their vehicles.
Okay, so Geraldo Rivera, of all people, rare voice of reason on Fox News. And it's really interesting what happens when you break their monopoly of lies. So that was such a fun segment because of the alternate reality that Greg Gutfeld lives in. And honestly, almost all the entire Fox audience does because all the Fox hosts do except Geraldo. So Gutfeld says they're welcomed by Canadians. And then Geraldo says that's not true. 2/3 of Canadians say that they are against them. And Gutfeld says, well, that's not true because I do research. No, but wait, you didn't cite any research, you didn't cite any polls. Geraldo cited 3 polls. We just cited a 4th. They all have the same number. And the one that JR just gave you is 2/3 are not just against the truckers. They think a national emergency should be declared to get rid of the truckers. So that's the actual opinion of the Canadians. But if you watch Fox News, other than that segment, and I know it seems hard to believe if you live in the outside world, but in the conservative media bubble, they all think the Canadians love this protest and that they love hearing the honking horns right underneath their house 24/7, and they love not being able to sleep. They don't want any mask mandates. They don't want any vaccine mandates. You know the original protest about the mandate to have vaccines to go back and forth between the American and US border. You wanna know what percentage of truckers are already vaccinated in Canada? 90%. This is a minuscule minority. They happen to have very large trucks, but they're a tiny, tiny minority. But if you watch Fox News, other than that 5-minute episode, you would think that they were the most popular thing on earth, and that Canadians think that Justin Trudeau is Stalin himself for having taken action against the truckers. That's the alternate reality of Fox News. Helen.
I'm starting to think that Geraldo takes like the Kool-Aid that they give him and secretly dumps it out like once a week. Because he
weird,
right? Like it's like mostly he's on board with Fox, but then every like one thing out of every 10 things he says actually makes sense. So I can't believe he's still working there, to be honest. And like you said, Jake, at the beginning, like when Geraldo Rivera is the voice of reason on your network.
Well, that's what's happening then. On the 5, he's become the Juan Williams, which I'm not sure where he went. So he's the now lib on the 5 panel that gets to fight back against 4 of the people who are yelling and shouting at him. And it's one of the things I'm glad you pointed out, because it's every once in a while. Because as what Janine Pirro said to Geraldo was, well, did you say the same thing about the summer of 2020? As soon as she was saying, I was like, hell yes, he did. In fact, he was saying it loudly. We were talking about that was the other 9 out of 10 times when he agrees with everything that they're saying on the network.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my last thing on this is the line about incitement, and there I agree and disagree. So, is Fox News inciting the trucker convoy along with every other conservative cause? Of course, come on. And Greg Gutfeld seemed like genuinely outraged. Are you saying people watch us and are affected? Right-wingers affected by Fox News. An outrage. Come, are you, Greg? I know you're supposed to be like the comedian on Fox News. Hilarious. That's already the funniest thing I've ever heard. Okay. But is that a joke that the Fox News might influence right-wingers in America and Canada? Of course you guys influence them. But the part that I disagree with Geraldo is, so what? So yeah, you guys are representing the right-wing position. If you weren't pathological liars, I actually wouldn't have any problem with it. Battlefield of ideas, you say that, I say this, let's see who wins, right? But all you do is lie 24/7. That's my real issue. But do we incite progressives to fight back against the right wing and to fight back against corporate Democrats? Goddamn right we do. So what? Okay, and you're supposed to care about the news and you're supposed to tell people how you feel about it. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not lying.
My favorite part about that entire clip was when Greg Gutfeld was like, I don't just come on here and scream. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. All right, yeah, sometimes I do. That's all you do.
Yeah, and by the way, again, nothing wrong with screaming. I do it all the time. But it's supposed to be backed up by research. And Gutfeld said, I sometimes yell, but I always do the research. I've never seen you quote anything. I've never seen you cite a statistic, a poll. You're the least research man in America. He said, all I do is research. Oh, you did research? I dismiss it. Based on what? Nothing. Absolutely. I will yell over you. Again, I gotta confess, Greg Gutfeld is a joke.
He's a comedian.
Yeah, that I guess makes him the funniest man on Fox News. Am I not merciful? All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we kick more conservative ass, including here in LA. Curious thing happened. And then a top Republican says, gay people are depressed. I don't know why that would be. Well, we'll explore. Greg, we'll do some research, okay? Come back, you'll love it. Back on TYD programming note, watch this man to the left of me right here in a couple of ways. Every morning, 9 a.m., we call it morning because it's 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's noon Eastern for you guys. You can watch it on your lunch break if you're on the East Coast. J.R. Jackson's new show, Watch List, youtube.com/watchlistTYT, and also facebook.com and tyt.com/watchlistTYT. Make sure you're checking that out. And then we have a petition, but we're gonna talk about it a little bit later in the show. You could always see our tyt.com/petitions. We did one about the San Francisco Police Department using sexual assault victims' DNA against themselves. We have really good news about that later in the program, so stay right here to find that out. And then I wanna give a shout out to one of our sponsors, great sponsor, aspiration.com/TYT. Aspiration's now got Aspiration Zero. It's the first ever credit card that gives users the ability to eliminate their carbon footprint. So then you have total peace of mind. You are not contributing to climate change because it erases your carbon footprint. It's a great product, as usual, the best rates and the most progressive policies. You gotta check it out, aspiration.com/TYT. Now, I'll go to a member. Jojo H says about the Axios story we did about the squad. Jojo A says, Cenk, they should be called the Axios of evil. Okay, that's funny. So that's why I wanted to read it. Becca 420 writes in on Twitch, TJF, Cenk, and TYT. Well, thank you. We appreciate it, and I appreciate it. Now I'm going to YouTube super chat. Billy Bear Akuda writes back in. We get Helen making us laugh and JR doing it with style. Hell of a team up tonight. Excellent panel. Go get him, you two. Okay, he did this in the last hour and left John out. I see you, go get him, you two. Okay. Robert says, post midterms we'll see the Dem establishment partner with the rabid Republican Congress to purge progressives from Washington. It's going to be vile. Well, unless Nina Turner wins, in which case we purge them back. I'm not joking, I think she's a one-person wrecking machine. And that's why they keep spending millions to try to keep her out of Congress. I swear to God, she's gonna make a giant difference, but you gotta help. There's millions coming in the other direction. And this time the district is different and the campaign is different, and she could definitely win. So NinaTurner.com/hello, NinaTurner.com/hello. And make sure you're helping Jessica Cisneros right now, 11 days left in her election. By the way, if you live in Cisneros and Cuellar's district, early voting has started in Texas. Make sure you're voting for Cisneros. That's me inciting people. Sawyer 4 writes in, here, just excited to brag that I officially have a bathroom door. I know, there's a lot of important news, but I can't help but brag that I could blank in peace. Still better than a Trump brag. Okay, I read that because that's real America. Okay, the America that Washington has no idea about. Love you, we'll be back. Back on the power panel, Cenk, JR, and Helen with you guys. JR, take it away.
Let's take it away, let's go.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say all lives matter. I don't care what color you are. That's the problem here. I really believe all lives matter. And by the way, thank you for our law enforcement back there. They're making Santa Clarita a very nice place. Thank you, and you know I mean that. Okay, back to me. Some of you know that I'm an activist here in town, but I am concerned about what I'm reading about the Afghanistan refugees. Look, you guys, we have been through hell in the last couple of years. A lot of us have lost their jobs, lost their businesses. We don't have any money, but yet we are going to fund non-citizens. Keep in mind, we left a lot of Americans behind. And now, you want us to have our taxpayers all put in money for these people that the government, which you know is crooked, and they lie. They say they're vetted, but y'all know that they're not. And those people in the back are going to have to work double time for those people. For their lives. We have American children and families under the bridge we don't care about. We have vets here in town we don't care about, but we care about refugees. When does American people come first? I know you guys understand what I'm saying, and I kind of lost where I'm at.
Really? So that's comedic actress and activist. Her name is Cindy Jostin, and she took the mic at Santa Clarita. It's just outside of Los Angeles. That was at a city council meeting, and she had so much to say about many different things, all about the same time. And many of those kind of didn't make sense. But one thing is for sure, animal lives matter. Watch.
All I trust in you guys. I do. I really do. I'm not going to yell at everyone. I'm getting tired of the human race. We say all lives matter. Well, you know what? I rescue animals, and I'd rather rescue animals than humans because we're all kind of not working together very well here. And I'm just hoping that you guys can come to another decision. I don't want the refugees here. They might be nice people, but I don't want to pay for them. We have people here that lost their jobs because of the pandemic.
In case you guys missed it for that past minute and a half, we started with all lives matter, then it was animal lives matter, then it was who cares about anyone else. In case you missed it, just really fast, watch.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say all lives matter. I don't care what color you are. That's the problem here. I really believe all lives matter.
A few moments later.
I'm getting tired of the human race. We say all lives matter. Well, you know what? I rescue animals, and I'd rather rescue animals than humans. I don't want the refugees here. They might be nice people, but I don't want to pay for them.
I guess it's easy to keep arguing back and forth when you're arguing with yourself. So eventually she wanted someone to hear. It's like a one-man show, just constant back and forth. She's two different people all at the same time. She should probably change her voice though a little bit. I've seen a couple of those shows. They're a little bit uncomfortable, but still. So by the way, this is not her first time that she's done some advocacy work, definitely. And also work where she's dealing with other people who want to eliminate folks that she just doesn't agree with. Watch this from January 6th of 2021. There's Cindy in the red tank top there, and the woman who was yelling with the big Trump flag said, "This nation is about to go through a cleansing, which means your ass is about to be wiped out." I'm not sure who she was talking to, but Cindy then said, "I'm sticking with her." So when someone says you're hanging out with people who are talking about cleansing America from certain folks, and then Cindy goes, "I was just there," you openly said, "I'm sticking with her." And lastly, as I mentioned, she's a comedic actress. Maybe if she worked a little bit more on her craft, she may have been in something more than what's according to IMDb is. She has been in Mad TV, big role, in 1995.
JR, to be fair, she did say that a lot of people had lost their jobs around those parts during the pandemic, as she called it. She just happened to lose it a little earlier, 27 years
ahead
ago.
of the game.
Okay.
I think as an actress, I think I figured out why she keeps coming to these LA council meetings, because it's the only way she can get in front of the camera.
Oh, okay. As my kids would say,
like,
sick burn. So now, why are we going after her? I mean, look, you saw it, right? But let me just clarify in case it wasn't already exceedingly clear. She said, you know, that she was not a fan of humans anymore because we're not working well together. You saw it, you can rewind and see it again. Then she said right afterwards, I don't want them here and I don't want to pay for them. And I would rather rescue animals than the people she was referring to, Afghan refugees. Now remember, conservatives also, at least the ones on television, were the ones pretending that they were outraged that we're withdrawing from Afghanistan. They would show the pictures of the Afghan families dropping their babies over the wire for the Americans to catch so they could bring them to freedom. And why are we leaving our poor Afghan allies? We should just stay there for another 20 years. So all the defense contractors buying ads on this network, they would say, can make a couple more $1 trillion. So those were those guys, but now all of a sudden, they haven't been vetted. I don't give a damn about them. I don't want to pay for them. I'd rather take care of a dog than an Afghan refugee. And then they wonder why we think they're the bad guys. Like, do they even hear themselves? They literally sound like the villains in the movies. Like, you know, all I wanted was sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads. Instead, I have these humans, and I don't want to take care of the humans. She's disgusting. Helen.
This is my favorite thing about people who scream, all lives matter. And then you go, okay, well, what about these refugees that are desperately in need? Oh, okay, maybe not all lives. All right, maybe not brown lives. Maybe not those lives. When I say all lives matter, I mean white cops. You guys get that, right? Right,
absolutely. And then what if you do ask them, it's like the all lives matter line is meant to exclude certain folks. You bring it up to them like all lives means all lives, as she said right there. I promise you I only cut down about 30 seconds from that beginning to the end when she said the exact opposite thing. I'm not sure if they really keep track of the things that they're saying, but it doesn't matter because the folks who are listening, who are buying it, it doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. As long as the right words are said to pursue and continue on that argument, that means absolutely nothing. Just hate. It's hate. It's a vehicle to get to the hate, and they got there.
So everybody check out Watch This. That's JR's show where he shows videos like this and breaks them down all the time. So youtube.com/watchthistyt. In this particular case, I just want to make a couple more comments about the videos that he cut. So she said, all lives matter. Then she said, no, American people come first. I mean, there was nonstop hypocrisy in that speech. It was like barely 2 minutes, but she contradicted herself 18 different times. So when she says all lives matter, she's definitely referring just to the white cops. She said, now that we brought brown people in here, they're gonna have to work double time, right? She didn't say brown people, but she literally said Afghan refugees. Now they're gonna have to work double time. You can see it in the clip, right? So all lives matter. By that, of course, I mean mainly white right-winger lives, plus dogs and some turtles. Okay, but I literally got out of my house, which I don't even do for work because I haven't worked in 27 years, and then to come here to rant about how much I don't think Afghan lives matter. But I started the speech by saying all lives matter. So now you know what that code word actually means.
Yeah, I'd love to see how much taxes, you know, she keeps complaining about. I don't want my tax dollars. Girl, you haven't worked since 1995. What taxes are you paying? Come on.
Yeah, and by the way, she'll watch this and she'll be outraged. She's like, can you believe they offended me? My life matters. You just told us to send the Afghans that worked with our military back to a certain death at the hands of the Taliban because those Afghans had the courage to work with us here in America. They were our translators, they protected us. They're not properly vetted. You liar. Those people were maniacally vetted. because they're so worried that if they come back here and any Afghan ever commits any crime, monsters like you will blame the Biden administration, you'll blame Democrats, you'll blame all Afghans, all Muslims. Oh, that one just shoplifting in Minnesota. We shouldn't have brought him to the country. They were thoroughly vetted. They actually helped us and saved our lives. And now you say to them, your life doesn't matter to me at all. You're a brown Muslim and I don't want you here. And then she'll have the audacity to catch feelings because we quoted her.
They hate us because they hate us.
Yeah.
No other reason besides that. Let's go on to some more hate, specifically here from South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem signed an anti-trans bill into law earlier this month. It would ban trans youth from participating in sports that are consistent with their gender identity. Now, as she's going through this low-hanging fruit that'll probably get her some more, score some more points within her party, she did neglect to think about the kids that she is targeting. Let's watch this.
There is a statistic circulating around right now that 90% of South Dakota's LGBTQ community is diagnosed with either anxiety or depression. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. That makes me sad and we should figure it out.
If only there was a governor of some state that signed a bill into law that could do something about what you should do something about. We could just find one, but until then, I'll just stand here silently and look around and wait for the next question because I really don't want to talk about this. But what she did want to talk about was the details of this bill. So it's Senate Bill 46 and it was introduced less than 2 months before getting to her desk. And according to the legislation, if a student suffers direct or indirect harm due to a transgender student playing in a sport that matches their gender identity, they can pursue legal action against the school, organization, or educational agency that caused said harm, by the way. Also, she didn't stop there because there's all these analyses that talk about the things that really do happen with kids. Let's look at that. Trans youth often report feeling isolated and excluded in academic environments, and that discrimination puts them at an increased risk for poor mental health, suicide, substance abuse, violence, and other health risks. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Oh, they don't listen to them either. Now, by the way, as this was going on, just at the end of January, as they were bringing this up within 2 weeks, her chief of staff had this to say about the trans kids that they're looking to target and who he compared them to. Watch.
By putting it in law, we are ensuring that what we're seeing all over the country does not happen in South Dakota. It's sort of like terrorism. You want to keep it over there, not let it get to here.
Not only that, the kids are terrorists. Got to keep them away from us before they come and infect us. Maybe if they'll kill us if they get near us and do that whole competing thing that is so scary to do. Now, it's not just the self-harm, as that question was asked her that she had no answers for. I'm curious what her answer would be about the harm that comes from many supporters of this type of legislation. Let's look at this. 2021 and 2020 were the deadliest and second deadliest years on record for trans and gender non-conforming people, respectively, with the Human Rights Campaign tracking at least 50 violent deaths in 2021 alone. A new Trevor Project survey shows that a startling 85% of transgender or gender non-binary youth say that their mental health has been negatively affected by these kinds of legislative attacks. And one specific story that was devastatingly sad that we reported, I think it was last year, from Eli, this young man who had to deal with the bullying and the anger and the pushback of him being himself.
So Eli Fritchley was in Tennessee. He was a 7th grader. They teased him for being gay and said that he was going to go to hell, and he killed himself. That's what depression sometimes leads to. That's what bullying sometimes leads to. And we're just showing you Eli here because we happen to do a story on him, but there are countless others. And the numbers were actually getting better before the attacks, literal political attacks against the LGBTQ community, and then the numbers on depression and all the other factors that affect that community started going back up to the point where it is now overwhelming because they're attacked nonstop. And so at some point, a little kid who doesn't know better thinks it's their fault because all the grown-ups told them it was their fault and that they were born wrong. They were born defective. There's something wrong with them and they can't even fix it. And God hates them. So that's who Kristi Noem is. So look, don't come to me with the trans Olympic athletes. This isn't about the Olympics. It's about a kid who's just trying to run girls track in the middle of South Dakota. The Republican governors who pass all those anti-trans laws, they were asked, several of them were asked, we covered it on the show, can you name one case in your state where this has caused a problem? Where you think someone of the wrong gender broke a school record, a high school record, as if that would be a huge national issue and why you're bothering to pass a law, right? They couldn't name a single case. The reason they did it was hate. And so Kristi Noem, congratulations, mission accomplished. You got the hate you were looking for.
This is so unbelievable to me that she was put on the spot asked that question by that reporter, because she was basically like, oh, I don't know why these damn disgusting, filthy queers are so sad. I don't know why. It's like, what are you talking? Because you are encouraging people to hate on them. That's why they're so sad, Kristi.
Yeah.
She's like, these filthy queers who are not allowed on my property, by the way. I don't know why they're so upset.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and
really, Kristi?
If you ever hear any nonsense from an idiot like Kristi Noem or a disingenuous person like Kristi Noem or Dave Rubin or anyone else who tell you, oh no, Republicans are great to gay people. They're nothing but liars. They literally my whole life, the Republican Party has been passing laws against gay people in one way or another. You can't get married, you can't do this, you can't adopt, we're gonna cut your funding if you do that, you're not allowed to have the same rights. I mean, in my lifetime, and not that long ago, the Supreme Court ruled that it wasn't illegal to have gay sex. In fact, it wasn't even gay sex, it was sodomy. Before that, Republicans all across the country were saying, you are not allowed to have anal or oral sex at all. And you're certainly not allowed to love a gay person. It's illegal. It was illegal. It was illegal. And you know who brought that to you? The disgusting right-wingers that are the Republicans. And they're still doing it today. 2004, George Bush won the election because Karl Rove, Dick Cheney, who has a gay daughter, but he did it anyway because he's a monster. I don't care how much Nancy Pelosi's kissing his ass today. Dick Cheney is one of the most evil men in America. With a lesbian daughter, he helped to pass ballot initiatives. He wanted those ballot initiatives in the swing states so that he and Bush could retain power. And those ballot initiatives were all against gay marriage, saying gay people are not equal to straight people. In America, we will not have equality. We will not have justice. We will hate gay people till the end of time. That's who the Republican Party is. And if you're in the LGBTQ community and you're voting for Republicans because you like tax cuts, you're a piece of crap. And you're betraying your own people. And you think they're not gonna come for you because you're rich. Well, largely in America, that's true. But at some point, they forget what the rules are. The hateful people that you financed and that you supported and fostered, and they come for you.
Yeah, never underestimate their quest for power. Because when they talk about kids being down and depressed during the pandemic, having to wear masks, being at home, stuck up at home, all those things were factors in kids having issues. And they'll say that quickly. But if someone asks them, what about trans kids that you guys are targeting and they have anxiety and high levels of depression and suicide rates, they have no answers anymore because they don't care. And when they talk about kids that they care about, they actually don't care. That's also another realm of this stupidity. And this, again, they're just looking to get power. This is to get back into office. She's suddenly a presidential nominee because of this.
Wow. Cenk, I love that you railed against the Republicans, but let's not forget the Democrats were no friend to LGBTQ until fairly recently.
Yeah.
So let's not forget that the Democrats were like, yeah, we don't like queers either. Oh, wait, queers have money. Oh, snap. No, we love them now. We love them.
No, Helen is factually correct. In 2013, it was a big deal that Joe Biden pushed Barack Obama to say that gay people are not inferior to straight people. And they too should have American rights like anyone else and be allowed to marry. Were the Democrats not merciful? Until then, they were too busy kissing hateful Republican ass and discriminating against that same community. And Helen is also right. That's because in 2008, the biggest contributors to Barack Obama were bankers. But in 2012, when he couldn't get as much banker money, he turned to the LGBTQ community who funded him for that election. So after that election, he all of a sudden found passion for gay rights. So that's who the corporate Democrats are. And they're about this much better than the disgusting Republicans. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT. So first, remember, Navinix writes in, Afghanistan had a rough couple of decades, don't you think, lady in the pink jacket? But she doesn't care about that because she doesn't think all lives matter. She thinks my life matters. That Afghan refugee, we send him back and he gets executed. I don't care about him at all. That's who Republicans are. Selfish egomaniacs who don't care about the rest of us. You wanna cry? Go cry, I don't care. Okay, here, a little of your own medicine. I don't care. Go cry in a corner. You're a monster. All right, Ashura Ozumi writes in, it is about an earlier story about taking away the child tax credit. And the government is perplexed why the birth rate is so low in America. Yeah, well, if you don't help at all, that's what happens. Old lady yells at the sky wrote in, I couldn't stop working because of the $250 a month child tax credit, but it definitely helped. Well, obviously now it's gone because of Manchin and Sinema. Now 3.7 million kids are back in poverty and Joe Biden doesn't give a damn at all. Neither does Pelosi or Schumer, they were all lying, they don't care. They've dropped it completely. Future in Doubt says, so tired of the Democratic Party, but with 30 reps retiring, this would seem to be the moment Cenk has been talking about. A hostile takeover of the party, it seems like now or never. Look guys, that's why we're doing tyt.com/canvas 2022. That is not the canvas in the general election. That's a canvas in primaries. Make sure progressives win those seats. Some of the worst corporate Democrats are retiring, and they're not retiring because of progressives. Axios is full of crap. They're retiring because their brand of politics sucks and is totally unpopular. They keep going telling their voters, oh, the Republicans are right. I mean, we shouldn't do a goddamn thing. And then they're wondering why, oh my God, I'm down 20 points in the polls. I guess I should retire. Yeah, all right, well, look forward to your lobbyist job. That's what we all know you're gonna do, and you're all gonna make millions, and you're all disgusting. All right, Gabby Marita said, why is rural America the only valid portion of the country? All of America is the real America. Yes, even those of us that live in the cities, constantly. And the right wing does it, corporate media does it. Oh, real America is Kansas. San Francisco, that's not real America. We're all the same country. I mean, we have to explain obvious things, but of course we do, because Republicans don't like anyone that isn't exactly them. So, oh, you're gay, I hate you. You live in San Francisco, I hate you. You live in Massachusetts, I hate you. And then you say to them, hey, could you stop hating us? Oh, we're the victims. We're the victims, they hurt our feelings. Ben Shapiro, they hurt my feelings. Okay, all right, drink that. OJ writes in on Twitch, 12 months on Twitch with TYT. That's a whole revolution of the earth around the sun. I love TYT for always keeping it real and keeping me informed about the issues that matter. A year ago, I used to watch MSNBC around the clock. Now it's TYT with no corporate BS. I love that. You see, once you watch us and you go back and watch cable news, you're like, oh, Jesus, that's awful. Wait a minute, they're obviously lying. Now I know the real facts. I love you guys. Join, hit the join button below on YouTube or tyt.com/join. TYT. We always bust John's chops here, so I'll just say that Tandy B wrote it on Twitch to say that she loves his commentary and his sense of humor. Okay, and Franklin Sharp Slicer represented the Dragon Squad on Super Chat. Just giving John a very rare shout out, okay? All right, everybody watch the Damage Report. All right, JR, what's next?
Let's do it.
Well, I thought it was a terrible thing when she ripped up the speech. First of all, it's an official document. You're not allowed. It's illegal what she did. She broke the law.
There's Donald Trump from a few years ago complaining about how Nancy Pelosi at his State of the Union speech at the time ripped up the speech after it was over. It was a bit of a show, but some people enjoyed it. Now, he was talking about how illegal that could have been. It's weird how we've all evolved till now. As we've heard about how Donald Trump has ripped up documents and things throughout the White House, potentially flushed them down toilets, clogged them up with the rest of his mess. But, sorry. But now we've discovered that Donald Trump is also, he took a few of those very much classified documents from the White House to Mar-a-Lago, I guess just for fun. The Associated Press reports about what was going on here. They said classified information was found in the 15 boxes of White House records that were stored at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence, is what the National Archives and Records Administration said on Friday in a letter that was sent to the Justice Department. In case you didn't know, taking classified documents and taking them home is illegal. Federal law bars the removal of classified documents to unauthorized locations, though it is possible that Trump could try to argue that as president, he was the ultimate declassification authority. I'm not sure who's gonna argue that. Here's some more of the illegal stuff that he was up to. The letter from the archivist in response to the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, which is investigating, also details how certain social media records were not captured and preserved by the Trump administration. And it also says that the agency learned that the White House staff frequently conducted official business using unofficial messaging accounts and personal phones. I've heard about that happening before too that they complained about. Those staff did not copy or forward their official messaging accounts as required by the Presidential Records Act. So also the letter says that after he left the White House, the National Archives learned that additional paper records had been torn up, as we mentioned before. So although the White House staff during the Trump administration recovered and taped together some of the torn up records, a number of the other torn up records that were transferred had not been reconstructed by the White House. So for Trump, these investigators will be looking to see if his actions, both during his presidency and after, violated the Presidential Records Act, which was enacted in '78 after Richard Nixon wanted to destroy documents related to the Watergate scandal. The law mandates the presidential records are the property of the US government rather than belonging to the president himself. A statute punishable by up to 3 years in prison makes it a crime to conceal or intentionally destroy government records. Now I mentioned before when we talked about him ripping things up and sticking them down his mouth and then putting them in his bag, that was a thing that they could potentially come after him for. But there's no teeth or any kind of enforcement to that law. There's definitely some enforcement and teeth to taking classified documents and taking them home with you.
So if you're looking forward to Donald Trump spending 3 years in prison because he broke that law and the punishment for breaking that law is 3 years, get real and welcome to America. Where Republicans break the law all the time, Democrats never hold them accountable. And that's why they feel like they're brazenly above the law. Trump acts that way. And so far, in over 70 years of life, he's been proven right. He's broken brazenly broken dozens of laws and never been held to account. And so in the middle of the story was buried the fact that the Justice Department and the FBI say that they are not looking into it. Because the Justice Department, of course, run by Merrick Garland, who was denied a seat on the Supreme Court for over a year because the Republicans said, we don't care that Obama's president, we're just gonna cheat and we're just not gonna let you on the court, okay? And so now Merrick Garland comes into office, these thugs and criminals are in the middle of breaking laws, like, oh, Republicans, I'm so scared of them. Democrats, man. So look guys, he's in a lot of trouble in cases in New York where civil and criminal charges are actually being pursued for financial fraud. I'll give you some quotes from the judge in that case in a second because that one's awesome and he actually could be in trouble for that one. But remember, mishandling classified information is not only illegal, but the #1 criticism they had of Hillary Clinton. her emails, and they used to say, what if there were classified materials in those emails, and then she should be locked up and executed and all those other things. And now Trump, we know, took classified materials, mishandled them, put them in Mar-a-Lago. By the way, Mar-a-Lago infested with Chinese spies. We did that story when he was president. A Chinese spy just walked in, he's like, he'll take anybody's money. He's like, oh, you got 20 bucks? All right, yeah, come on in, okay. And he was doing negotiations with foreign leaders as diners were walking by him in Mar-a-Lago. So do you think those documents were well protected at Mar-a-Lago? Hell no. So it's a massive mishandling of classified information. If it was someone who had given evidence about how the government was doing wrongdoing, either under a Democratic or Republican administration, that person would definitely go to jail for 3 years. Right? But it's Trump, there'll probably be no consequences.
How many toilets is he trying to flush these things down? Is he just going from toilet to toilet? Well, this one's clogged now. I guess I better go to Florida and try the toilets in Florida. Like, what's happening?
Flows better.
Yeah, but Helen, that's actually kind of literally true. The first time the toilet story came out, about a week ago or so, I remembered a clip, and we found it, of Trump mysteriously in the middle of a gathering of his cabinet, just started talking about clogged toilets. He's like, there's all these water pressure issues in the White House, and I'm sure it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong to clog the toilets. We're like, I remember at the time we ran the clip, we're like, what the hell? What kind of bathroom problems does he have, right? It turns out he's flushing classified information down the toilets because it's damaging to him. And at the time, officials in the White House were like, sir, it is deeply illegal to destroy those documents. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's the water pressure problem, that's what it is. And then since he's a moron and he has diarrhea of the mouth as well, he goes into the middle of everybody. He's like, the toilet problems are not a real issue. Everybody's like, what toilet problems? Okay, so now we know.
I am so glad that you went after Merrick Garland, Cenk, because if I was Merrick Garland and I was denied a seat on the Supreme Court for life, the way that it was done to him, the second I got to be the head of the Justice Department, I'd be like putting on my gloves like, oh, payback's a biatch. Like, I would be all up in it. What is this guy doing? He's just like, you know what? The Bible says turn the other cheek, right, guys?
Yeah.
How many cheeks are you gonna turn, Merrick? Can you please save America, literally, and the rest of the world from possibly another run by Trump for president, please?
Yeah, I think Merrick Garland's out of cheeks. And you don't have to have a vengeance against Trump. We're asking for the bare minimum, Democrats. How often do we have to ask for the bare minimum? Just enforce the law like you would on anyone. We're not asking for anything special for Trump. All right, I got to come back to the judges on the criminal and civil cases on financial fraud. The Trump lawyers did this clown show, as always, right? In the New York hearings. The judge literally had to call a timeout because it was so out of hand. He went like this. He's like, timeout. That's not an official court thing to do, but it's because the Trump lawyers are screaming nonstop. And they're like, oh, the prosecutor doesn't like us. And the judge is like, the prosecutor not liking you is not a defense. He's like, he said they had copious documents. They had so many documents proving his fraud that the judge said it would be a dereliction of duty not to prosecute him. Like, if you have all this information and you don't prosecute, like, you would be sanctioned as a prosecutor, because why are you weirdly protecting him? By the way, that judge should ask Merrick Garland the same question on the National Archives issue, right? Let alone 1,000 other issues. And the judge went on to clarify, there is sworn congressional testimony that he committed financial fraud. And then the Trump's lawyer comes and goes, that was from Michael Cohen, he was convicted of lying. And the judge says, he was convicted of lying on behalf of Donald Trump for financial fraud. Are you saying that actually proves Trump is innocent? The lawyer's like, yep. He said, your argument is as audacious as it is preposterous. That was a quote from the judge. Okay, go ahead.
As the bank robbers were fighting over who's gonna face charges, they said, well, you're gonna believe that guy? He robbed a bank.
But that's almost literally what happened. That's almost literally, but it only got worse. There was the recent revelation that on financial fraud that came out, and the Trump team was like, well, that actually proves we didn't do it. And the judge is like, no, the facts showing that you did do it are evidence that you actually did it, not that you didn't. And he's like, is this real? Time out.
I would have loved to have seen a thought bubble of like what that judge was actually thinking. It's just like all F words. He's like, what the F.
So Trump had a really bad week. Several different crimes that he seems to have clearly committed. He's being pursued in a civil case in one of them. And of course, now this is my favorite one too. I'll give you one last one, absurdity. So he's being pursued in civil and criminal cases on the financial and tax fraud, right? And he says, I shouldn't have to come in and testify, because if I do, I would have to do the Fifth Amendment not to incriminate myself in the criminal case. And so that's why you should end the civil case against me. The judge is like, wait, let me get this right. Since you would claim in the civil case that you don't want to answer questions because you definitely did it, and that would incriminate you in the criminal case, I should let you off in the civil case because you just told me you did it. Judges, the lawyers are like, yep. Just like, no, that's not how it works. You have to testify. So now Trump and two of his idiot kids have to testify in New York. So that's a big win.
These activist judges, man.
Okay, all right, we're out of time. But in the bonus episode for the members, amazing stories, including how about a guy is a Los Angeles Rams owner? Wait till you see that story. TYT.com/join to become a member, or if you're on YouTube, you just hit the join button below. Members, we'll see you there in a minute.
You know, old school was pitched to me from Jake. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong, I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck.
But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay.